Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Today's video is another working video, and basically it's two dendrobiums that are failing, neither of which I want to lose. One took an awful long time to get hold of in the first place and wasn't exactly cheap, and the other one I've had forever and I'm currently losing it, so I'm going to try and rescue what's left of it. What's left of it is already a rescue attempt, which didn't work. Something I discovered along the way is putting multiple plants, which in this case were kikis or pieces, in a community pot. What you end up with is small pieces with not very good roots in a huge pot that just will not dry out because there's insufficient root activity. Yeah? So it's a mistake I don't do anymore. Occasionally I will put two plants in one pot, but they'll get crammed in the smallest pot possible until they've got good roots. Then they can be separated again. Anyway, and the other one is a plant, in this case, that just isn't doing well in a pot. So we'll give it a go on a mount. So both of these dendrobiums are going to be mounted today. So the first job, as always, is let's get them out of their pots and see what we're working with. That also is needed before I can decide on size and shape of mounts. I need to know what I'm dealing with. So let's get that bit done first. Somewhere around there, I think. Yeah, that's about right. Might want to go up a bit, I suppose. There we go, that'll do. Right, so the first one is my Dendrobium Victoria Regina. Now this took me a hell of a long time to get a reasonable piece from Sarah. Loads and loads of baskets of specimen plants, often displayed in the Orchid Paradise as a mass show, absolutely stunning, but hadn't split any for some considerable time, so she didn't have any for sale of any size. So basically I put my name down and said, next time you split one, save me a big bit and I'll come and get it. Which I did. So what we've got here is a collection of canes. This has bloomed on and off very well in some cases over the years since I've had it, and now we've got no new growth coming from the base. We have one cane coming from the base that is still growing, but it's not really what you would call growing well, and then we have a kiki part way up a cane that has no roots. So first of all, I suspect we're going to have very little root system in here. Now, we do have some root tips. So there is a little bit of root activity, not a lot. Not a lot. Now I want to try and get as much of the bark out of this as possible, because obviously it's going on a mount. But I mean, that's an active root. And there's a couple, but there's also a load of old tired dead ones, which we will try and trim and tidy up. Now, I forget how long this has been in this pot, but it was put in the pot with this mix, which was my moss and small bark mix, to try and encourage it to grow some roots, and we do have some root activity. Now this has surprised me, because I thought we were just going to end up with old tired inactive roots, some of which were possibly viable, but there's actually a lot better roots on here than I was expecting. Nonetheless, it's not a good root system, but at least we've got some with growing tips, which means when it goes on the mount, it'll have a start. There'll be something to start it off. Right, so first job with this then is to trim off all the rubbish, because the last thing you want on a mount is dead roots. They're just of no use. They will just get in the way. So I can do this by eye in the main, rather than having to feel them. I can see them, at least most of them. And we will work with what we can see initially, and then we'll stop and get very cautious, because the last thing I want to do is cut an active root off. So we've just got to be selective. Pick on the ones that are definitely gone. Once I've done this, you'll see what I mean by active roots, because hopefully that's all that will be left once we've been through the motions. There might be a couple get left behind on the grounds that they're in a very sensitive place, and if I trim we might lose a good one. But in the main, these are pretty obvious. Probably got my hand in the way and you can't see a thing about what I'm doing, but I'll lift the plant up a bit, should be able to see a bit better. I mean, I'd have to zoom right in to see the close detail that I'm using to do the trimming. But we're nearly there now. Right, so that's virtually the rubbish gone. Right, so now you can see what I mean. Yeah, these are whiter roots, some of them have growing tips, so we do have a start point. So the plant is far from dead. That's better than I was expecting. Now what I propose to do is strap this on the mount upright, yeah, and what I will do is put the plant near the bottom of quite a tall mount, so that this cane here and this kiki are against the mount, and this kiki can have some moss underneath it, and that might encourage it to root. That will be my fail-safe if I get roots on that kiki, because if the rest of the plant doesn't do so well, I've got a new kiki with roots that have been grown in moss on a mount that will separate and be mounted separately and will not disturb the roots, because it will be used to moss and mounting and the watering cycle. So that is a lot better than I was expecting. So where will we pop that? We'll pop that in there at the moment. We'll have a soak and some water. It's not really enough there to soak. Right, so that's that one. This one I suspect is not going to be very good at all. Now this is the problem I was getting at. All of these bits of the plant round here are dead, and that left a couple of bits here that have not totally failed. In addition, we have a kiki here with roots. It's just about got a growing tip, although the latest leaf is, half of it is dried up. And then we have another kiki here with two tiny little roots. And we have a few long wispy canes, a couple of which I might keep, but it depends what's on this end of them, quite honestly. So let's get the whole thing out. And we'll see what we've got. Ah, that was actually wired in. I mean, this is absolutely soaking wet. just will not dry out properly. Right, so older dead bits, in theory, we got one huge plant here. I thought that, oh, we got some active roots down here. Ooh, goody. So parts of this plant are growing, even though there's nothing coming from the base as far as new bits are concerned. So these great big solid bits over here, surely they're not attached. Because if this is one big plant, I really am going to have to strip it. Because this whole section here is dead. But this section isn't. We do have active roots. So we've got roots in places, but what we've also got is lots of dead bits. So these roots here don't look too bad, but they've got no active growth above them, so they're not supporting anything. And then round here, I think these are just old roots, you know. There's no part of this plant round here that's alive. Now I'm going to have to go and get the secateurs to cut that. I want that section off, I can't mount it. Luckily all my tools are very close by, otherwise you get big long gaps with nothing. Which I wouldn't do that if I couldn't get to things quickly that I wanted. Right, so I'm going to try and get these big sections off. You can hear it, so it's like a solid piece of wood. That's that piece off. Yeah, this is a solid base. That's probably why it got planted like this in a big pot, because there was so much of it. But this whole section over here I don't want. So I'm just checking now, because I'm looking at where the canes are coming from. This cane here is part of this plant part of the plant I'm going to cut off. It's got no leaves and no shoots, so it can go with that part of the plant, along with that stubby bit. So we'll come across here now. Comes to something when the secateurs are struggling with it, with all the leverage I've got on here. I should be left with quite a small piece. That's what I'm hoping. Which is a manageable piece with any luck. Just trying to untangle the canes that have been cut off with that section of the plant. Right, so what have we got now? Still got a couple of dead bits. Another solid bit there, which is coming off. Right, we're getting there now. Don't mind having a bit of a solid bit as a base, but these white roots actually look real, you know, as in live. So again, there's a little bit more to this plant than met the eye looking from the outside of the pot. These roots are fine, these are going to grow. And the fact that there was a fair bit of moss in this pot means that these roots are used to being in moss. So they should start doing a bit better now. Right, so we've got a cane, can you see? Yes, we've got a cane here with leaves on. Cane here with leaves on. We've got a very long cane here that's got a few leaves right on the very end. Shall we leave that one? Yeah, why not? And then we've got another cane here that's actually got a flower spike just there, and another flower spike here, and one of the kikis. Where did the other kiki go then? Where's that managed to disappear to? Oh, there it is. Right, so let me just I'm not gonna, am I gonna break it off? So one of the roots is sort of attached. Can I get it to separate? Yes, which means I should be able to just peel that kiki off gently and keep those few roots. Yep, there we go. Right, one kiki. And the other one is here. I am going to separate them because they'll go at the base of the mount. So they'll be growing on as like separate plants within the mount. Right, so these big long dangly canes have all got leaves on the end of them. So they've got some greenery to allow for a bit of photosynthesis, not a lot. And we've got some live roots at the base. It's a few manky ones, but if I start playing with that, we might start losing the good ones that we've got. So we can mount that along with the two kikis. I'm a lot happier about this plant being saved. I'm not going to take the flower spikes off. That's what they look like. So they're not very obvious. When this was a massive plant, this was a specimen plant once. You know, it had like 30 odd canes on it that all would have 3 or 4 flower spikes on at the same time. But that's what they look like, and then the tiny little buds form, and then they open into the most stunning blooms. And it is still one of my favourite dendrobiums, which is why I really don't want to lose it. Chances of ever getting this again are probably 0. Dendrobium Herco blossom. So now what I need is a relatively small mount for the Herco blossom, because it's got a base and 2 kikis that can go next to the base. So it only needs a mount about that big. It'll look a bit ridiculous with the big long canes, but that's irrelevant. The base of the plant is represented by the size of the mount, not the size of the plant. It's the base that you're mounting. You know, the plant could be 6 foot tall, but if the base of the plant is this big, you don't need a 2 foot square mount, because it's never going to fill it. And then the Victoria Regina needs a tall, thin mount, tall enough that that kiki that's coming out part way up the cane can be sat and strapped against some moss. So that's what we've got to do. Right, so clearing up time and go and get down in the shed and rummage amongst spiders and all sorts of wildlife and try and find 2 nice mounts. Preferably ones that have already got hooks on that have been used before. And I haven't got to do any mucking about, I can just use them. And I'll need to get some moss in to soak. Quite honestly, the sphagnum moss, if it has a while soaking, it's easier to work with. If you've only just soaked it, it can still feel a bit crispy and it's not as easy to manoeuvre. Then I'll have to get some wire and some wire cutters and all the rest of the paraphernalia. So I'll be back. Okay, got some mounts, a long thin one and just a small square. We'll do the long thin one first. I've done some new tags and I've zoomed the camera in quite a bit closer so that hopefully where I'm going to be working is literally much better viewed on the camera. Scissors in case I need them, which I probably won't, and my new wire cutters that I got, because the old ones weren't cutting right to the tip, which made certain jobs rather difficult. So we've got our moss that's been in to soak, and I've got my wire. So we're all ready to go. I've got my coffee, which I shall forget completely, and it'll be half cold by the time we've finished. Right, so we've got our long thin mount here. That's going to be for the Victoria Regina, however you want to say it. And it's got to go with the growth sections at the back. Now, is this long enough? It's going to be difficult because of the long canes. Yes, just about. So obviously I need the base on here, but I also need the base of that kiki somewhere where there can be some moss. Now it's going to be very near the top of the mount, but it was the longest thin mount I could find Other mounts that were longer than this were also this wide, and I didn't fancy getting the saw out, so it's going on here. But I won't be putting moss everywhere. I'm going to put moss right at the top to form a base for that kiki, which will hopefully encourage it to root. And then the rest of the moss is for the base of the plant and to allow for some roots to get going and expand. Now with a mount, providing you're available to water on a suitable frequency, it doesn't matter once the roots get going if they come out the side of the moss and are growing across the mount without any moss. That's not a problem. That's probably far more like they would grow in the wild. I'm just going to get my towel. I know I'm going to get my hands wet again, but there's certain things I do that I just don't like working with wet hands. And the towel's just there, that's what it's there for. Right, so now I'm going to put a piece of wire around the top to strap those canes and the kiki as a separate thing, because otherwise I'm going to waste quite a lot of wire going round and round to get to that point. So it'd be much easier to just do a separate little piece. Nonetheless, we will need to go round here quite a few times to hold that base nice and firm. So we will get ourselves a nice long piece so that we can go round. I'd rather cut a piece off and waste it than run out. Makes life quite difficult. Right, so that's that. We trim that off. Right, so now the first job is to get the wire attached to the mount and hold the moss in place. I'm putting moss underneath the plant as well as on top. If I had a really good root system, then I might put it directly onto the mount. But the problem is, these roots have been in a pot with moss, yes, so they're adapted to being in moss. There's quite a bit of moss in that pot. And as a consequence, they will adapt to sitting on this moss without any worries whatsoever. So I'm bending the wire around like that so that it will stay there. And then we'll go around once and we'll go around again, and that should hold the moss in place. Then we can attach the plant. And I can also put the mount down now. Right. Forgot what I was saying now, I was in the middle of something. Never mind, we do that when we get old. Right, so we've got quite a long root there, which I'm going to, it doesn't matter that it's pointing upwards, that's not a problem, but I must make sure that that kiki, farther up that cane, is at the back of the plant and is not off the top of the mount. And that's just about right. So that's about where I want the plant. Some of these roots are going to hang off the bottom. I'm going to go up a little bit more, as far as I dare. I don't want to lose that kiki up there, and I do want to try and get it to root. So I'm going to stick with that, and then I'm going to put some more moss on top, and then we will strap it. So I'm just going to fluff this around the roots basically. They don't have to be completely covered, that's not a big deal. The difference now is, instead of being in a pot that's soaking wet and the water getting all stale and lacking in oxygen and all that sort of stuff, it's now probably going to get watered at least every other day with fresh water. So it should be fine. Right, so there's our piece of wire. We will come round there. Now I can pick it up. Round again. I'm only going to get possibly another 2 out of this. No, I'm only going to get 1, so I'm going to go across the base of the plant now. We might have to cut another piece. I could do with another turn, and I haven't got one. Where's my end gone? There it is. So I will just twist those together so that they hold firm. So, give it a tug. I have actually got some pliers down here which helps pull it tight. It's an unusual piece of bark this, because it hasn't got the concave shape around the back. So I will have to pull the wire tight rather than push it into the concave area. So the plant's held, but there's only one piece of wire holding that moss that's gone on top of the mount. So I need another length now. I want to go around a few more times, make sure that moss is held, and also the plant nice and firm as well. So we'll make sure we've got enough to go around a couple. There we go. I might have just about had enough if I hadn't gone round twice before I started, but I needed that to hold that amount of moss in place. So right, we'll come back. We've got a piece, we've got a turn at the bottom there, round the back again to hold it still, let go of that wire, and then we'll come round here, round a bit farther up, and hopefully we've got enough for one more turn. Just about. Right, that's got the plant nice and firm, and just about got enough to twist. Well, it is only just too. that piece of wire was about an inch too short, but can I get it? Let's just see if I can pull it a bit tighter to get a little bit more enable me to capture it. Got it. Once you get a twist, you're fine, and you can pull it then. Right, so that's the base of the plant sorted. Now what I've got to do is sort out the top of the plant. God, these canes really are long. Just thinking ahead now. Where am I going to put this mount on the rack? It's going to hang off the bottom and go practically up to the top because of the length of the canes. Never mind. Now what we've got to do is get this kiki. I was just trying to separate these canes. This is a kiki. This is a kiki. No leaves, and has bloomed, and no roots. How strange. But what we need now is to strap this cane onto the moss. And the moss is in the wrong place at the moment, so we will gently move that so that it's under that kiki. And that can be watered as a separate entity. I'm not going to put moss on top of the kiki, just underneath. And hopefully that will encourage some roots that will go straight down into the moss and onto the mount, which will hold it. Orchids on mounts grow much better once they get some roots attached. There's obviously something in the plant that's triggered that the plant is now safe and is not going to come off in the wind, sort of thing. Yeah, which I'm sure does happen sometimes. I only need a couple of turns with this just to hold that in place. So trim that off. This is a little bit of a fiddly one for me. I don't normally have to do so much fiddling around as I am with this one, but it is a little bit unusual. So we've got to go, all we've got to do is go round that one cane. We haven't got to go round anything else. This plant is really firmly held because as I'm working up here I can feel that these canes don't want to move. They are quite firm. Right, so we'll go round there once, and then we'll come back round underneath there, and we'll have to go underneath there as well. As I said, this is far more fiddly than I'm used to doing, but only got to do it once. And then we'll come down there to hold that moss in place there. Well, that should do it. Got a turn just above it, a turn just below, and I tell you what, if I've got enough to go round again, I will. Just a bit lower down. We'll hold a bit more moss in place. Don't think that's going to go right round, is it? Yes it is, yay! But will it reach my end? If not, we'll just wind it round. No, it's not going to reach. So we'll just hook that round the mount itself, and do the same with this one. We'll just hook it under there and just turn it round a couple of times. There's no pressure on this wire. It's, you know, there's nothing trying to pull on it or tug or anything like that. All it is holding a bit of moss in place. It's not exactly a big deal really. Right, so that's got our kiki underneath there against some moss, and a plant down here well and truly firmly attached by the number of things. We have a few roots hanging out the bottom. I'm not worried about that. And there we go. I'm happy with that. Now the only thing we have to do now is attach our tag. Now if I put that down in there, then bring it across there, I might just about have enough on one of these bits to go through the hole. Yay! Just about. Then we can just flip that over, and that's got the tag held in place. We'll just get these tatty ends out of the way. So that's that one done. To say, a little bit fiddlier than usual, but it's done now. As I say, we only do these things once. I'm just going to put that there for now. I'm going to have to sort out where that one's going to go. The thing I need to check really, this is the growing season, and I can't do the hand on heart and quite honestly say that during the growing season, is that a bright light orchid or a shady orchid? I've got a feeling it's a shady orchid. I think from memory it grows in, often found in oak forests, damp oak forests. Well, if it's growing anywhere on an oak tree apart from hanging out the top, that's quite heavy shade until the autumn, when the leaves drop, unless it's an evergreen oak forest, when there are such things. So I'm going to do a bit of checking on that one. I know it's a cool growing plant, that bit I do know. I mean, this is a cool growing coffee, or it will be if I don't drink it soon. I've still got a bit of warmth in it, but not a lot. Right, now all we've got to do here is a bit of positioning, not much at all really. Somewhere in here, in this tangle, are two kikis. There they are. Both have a few roots. One's got a reasonable root system, the other one hasn't, but it's got enough. And then these big long dangling canes yet again. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to mount this one upside down, the plant itself, and mount the kikis upright, and because they will arch over. This plant naturally grows canes upright, and then as they grow longer they arch over. It's got a strange growth habit, this one. It's the only dendrobium I've ever come across that grows like this, and as these canes have already arched over, they logically should point downwards. So we're going to mount that one that way up, and the kikis can just sit alongside like that. So as I wind the wire around, those will just naturally attach. So we need a layer of moss over virtually the whole mount. Just put the plant down because I'm going to need to put some wire around to hold the moss in place again, so that it doesn't all fall off. I do risk it sometimes and try and hold the mount flat and the plant and just wrap the wire around straight over the top. But as I've got a plant and 2 kikis this time, I don't think that will be very successful. Like I say, you only do these mounts once. It's like, you know, when you pot a plant up or repot it or pot it on, you're only going to do it once for some foreseeable time. Now the one thing I will need to, as I'm starting to get quite a few mounts around now, I'm going to have to stop being lazy like I was around the other place. Sphagnum moss goes off. When it goes off it can turn quite acidic. This dried moss anyway, it's not live, this is dead stuff. It will go green, and that doesn't mean it's come back to life. We used to call it zombie moss, because I did get some instances where I did get some bits to grow. But most of the time it's just green algae, where, you know, they're in bright light, constantly wet, so it's algae. It's not really zombie moss at all, although it has existed. We did have evidence of it. So yeah, I forgot what I was saying again. Easily sidetracked today. I bet I know why. I didn't have any wine yesterday. Got my home shopping coming a bit later. The old wine rack was a bit low, to say the least. So it'll be partially restocked today, and then I shall have to have another home shop next week because Hannah's coming down for a long weekend, and a fair bit of that weekend is based on having some nice meals. Well, we're not going to have some very nice meals unless I get the food in. So, and I'm adamant that part of the weekend is celebrating Hannah's birthday, which is very soon, and next weekend is actual Father's Day. So we're celebrating Hannah's birthday and Father's Day. So as a consequence of that, we're going to have some good meals, some nice meals, some good breakfasts. One of the breakfasts will be bacon rolls. Shh, don't tell Hannah, she doesn't know yet. She will know before we get there, because I don't have bread in the house anymore. I haven't got any butter or similar. So when we have the bacon rolls, which is not very often, I have to ask Hannah to bring hers down so she knows she's got them. Because I only ever do that when we have the bacon rolls, otherwise I don't bother. Occasionally I might ask her to bring some bread down and some spread so that we can have scrambled egg on toast, which is what we always used to have for our Sunday breakfast when she was down for the weekend. We always had scrambled egg on toast, but that's got changed now because we don't have the toast. We tend to have a couple of fried eggs and beans and hash browns and do it that way. Right, I think that's good enough. Let's get the moss. Now let's get the plants sorted out. You've got to go. It doesn't matter which way round you go, does it? No. These long dangly canes will go where they're put. But I have got to take care of one of the canes because it does have 2 flower spikes on it. And I would like those to actually mature and bloom. Right, so we're going to put that there, like that. And then we will put one kiki, let's tuck it underneath, like that. This one doesn't matter so much because there's not so many roots this side, because I wanted the kiki roots to go in the moss basically. So that's that. Now what I am going to do is risk putting the moss on the top and then wind the wire around, and hopefully it will stay there along with that kiki, which is being a nuisance at the moment. Right, there we go. So we'll put some moss on top gently so that it doesn't all fall off, like so, and then try and find the bit of wire that should be hanging down here. Come around without getting hold of my finger, and change hands so that I can hold everything around here and round higher up. So there we go. Right, we've got our two kikis. That one's there's going to be a nuisance because it's going to hang against the rack when it's hanging up. See if I can turn it. Yes, there we go. Right, so we've got the moss, and I believe, let me check this plant. Yep, we've got the plant, we've got the roots, we've got the moss, and I've still got some wire. So we will go round again. I never waste a turn when I'm mounting. If I've got enough to go round again, then I always do. But I haven't got enough to go round yet again, so that will do. Now if I can find the end where I started. There it is. And then we can twist our two ends together. Like so. The pliers, get it nice and tight. This piece of bark is slightly concave, so I will be able to pull the wire a bit tighter. There we go. And then what we will do is the mount's going to go up that way. So I'm desperately trying to knock these flower spikes, not to knock these flower spikes, is we'll thread that in between the wires a couple of times so that it's sort of held in place anyway, and then we'll do it up the other way so that the hole is where the wire is going to be. Otherwise it's not going to work, is it? So we twist that in and out a couple of times. That helps hold it against the mount, and then we can just put one of these loops through there to hold it firm. In fact, I'm not going to do that. Scratch that. What we will do is just put it over the hook and then tuck it in to hold it down like so. Oops, it's come off the hook. Get back on there, you. There we go. That's got it. Right, so we just need to trim those tatty ends. There we go. Bring that down so we don't catch our fingers on it. So there we go. Roots buried. Long dangly canes. Flower spike there and there, so we will get a few flowers. These long dangly canes, if I can get this to start growing from the base, and who knows, the kikis might shoot out, they might start growing from the base. If I start getting growths from the base, these really long tatty canes might actually come off to tidy the plant up, because this is obviously a big long dangly thing. Right, so we'll put that one over there till I can find somewhere sensible to put it. So there we go, two dendrobiums mounted. Both of those were on the top of the list. They were on the red list because they were failing. I now have quite a bit of confidence that both of them will pull on quite nicely because they had better roots than I was expecting. It's good when it goes that way round. It's usually the other way round, isn't it? You get this thing out of the blinking pot and you sort of think, well, where's the roots then? Anyway, that's today's done. I'm not going to do any more work out here today. I've got the RO unit on it. I've got to fill up all my containers. I don't need to do any watering today, mainly because it's now lunchtime, and the thing that needs watering next is the cymbidiums, and until I fill my containers up and get the RO water in here, I haven't actually got any water to water them with, so they can wait till first thing tomorrow. I'll do those tomorrow. We are probably in the very near future not going to have any more cymbidium blooms, because the ones that I've got left, they're nearly all going over, so I need to crack on with these wheels on this staging so that the staging can have the cymbidiums on and go outside. Coming soon. Anyway, thanks for dropping by and supporting the channel and all that, and don't leave a comment. They're most welcome, and don't forget the old thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.